Hi everyone, and welcome back. I'm Carl Sloman from the Coordination Code. Looking forward to today's lesson. Today's lesson we get a little bit more into specifics. So hang with me on this and it'll all come clear and it will all make sense. But this is one of the critical lessons we're about to look at. This is when we start relating sheet music or standard notation for drum set to a new system that I've come up which makes life much easier for learning complex patterns. On this page here within my book, and it is on page 13, you'll see I've got a particular example of a drum part that's here. Now on the drum part you'll see there's two drums being hit at any given moment. So on the first one here, what we see it's the right hand on the ride cymbal and the bass drum, which should be the right side of your body. On the next one we have the snare drum and the hi-hat, which is being played with the left side of the body. I'm an open-handed player, which means that I don't cross my hands when I play the drums. So when I wrote this, I wrote it from an open-handed perspective. However, don't get caught up in that. It doesn't matter how we play this, just as long as we keep the limbs separated. So when we look through here, what ends up happening is the brain and the way the human brain functions. When it sees this first pattern here, the first thing it has to do is say, okay, what does the top symbol mean? Ah, it means the ride cymbal. What does the bottom symbol mean? Oh, it means that it's a bass drum. It has to sort that out, and it does it at very high speed, but it still has to work at it. Once it's done, it combines the two together and says, this is the movement my body has to make. That works well for some things, but it slows down the process. And as you move through it, you then have to start reading all of the different patterns that are on there. And your brain has to do a lot of work to come up with exactly how they work together. This is why many drummers give up on learning standard notation, or they just can't be bothered because they're worried it's going to be too much work. And like anything, music being a language, you have to read. This is the reading element. In my book, what I decided to do, however, was come up with a new form of notation, which you can see on this side of the book, which does the same thing as what I was just showing you. Now this is for two-part coordination exercises, where we use two quadrants. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say two quadrants, go back to some of the previous lectures and you'll find out more about that. So what I did is I turned around and I said, okay, let's take a look at what the body is actually doing with a given function, and let's work out what a new symbol or a new way of expressing it could be. And what I decided, as I spoke about in the quadrants in previous exercises, was if I play my right hand and my right foot together, that's the right side of my body. So why don't I just notate it with the letter R, meaning it's right. On my left side of my body, if I take my left hand and my left foot, the same thing happens. Well, it's the left side of my body, so why don't I just call that L? If I use my hands together, why don't I call that H for hands? When I work with my feet together, call that F for feet together. All right, so now we've got R for right, left for left side of the body, H for hands, and F for feet. The final two are the more complex ones, and that's the cross plane that I talked about, where you have your right hand and your left foot together. So what I decided to do was call it an RX, or a right cross. And the way we determine which is the right cross and the left cross is whichever hand is playing, that's what comes up with that particular pattern. So if I'm playing with my right hand and my left foot, it's a right cross. If I'm using my left hand and my right foot, that's a left cross. And we can abbreviate that as an RX or an LX. Now the brain doesn't have to start resolving all of these notes that are on lines and figure out where things are. All it does is looks and sees R, right side of the body, L, left side of the body, H, hands, F, feet, RX, right cross, LX, left cross. Makes it much easier to do. However, my experience has shown me that not everybody learns the same. So in the next lesson, I'm actually going to show you how we then converted those RXs and Ls into the system that I use within the book. So until next time, I look forward to seeing you again, and we'll take it up from there. Cheers.